Hey everyone, this is D, Movieman, fellow cinephile, popcorn addict, and emerging film critic coming to you with reliable recaps, reviews, and reactions. And of course, I'm coming to you all with another trailer reaction. Now this particular reaction was actually a request. I actually wasn't planning on doing this one, but if someone requests it, usually I'll do my best to try to oblige them. So if you're watching, thank you for the request. So if you're wondering why this seems somewhat delayed, that's why. So today I will be reacting to the newest trailer for Halloween Kills, directed by David Gordon Green and starring Jamie Lee Curtis and Nick Castle. Let's get into it. I mean, she's not wrong.
You copy! I can't see you! Take my hand now! Get in it! Grab my hand!
Nah, you already knew. Ooh. Dang. Oh! Woo!
My grandmother was right. The boogeyman was real.
It's over.
We can't hurt anyone ever again.
Don't think that's accurate.
No one told you.
Told me what?
Somebody in there?
Michael Myers is alive.
Ooh!
Stop! You had a knife in your stomach.
You and Allyson should not have to keep running. Evil dies tonight.
I'm not just gonna sit and watch another innocent person die.
If you track Michael's victims, it's a straight line to Michael's childhood home.
What do we do?
We fight.
Let's hunt him down.
Michael Myers is flesh and blood. But a man couldn't have survived that fire. The more he kills, the more he transcends.
Run! Go home now!
He's the essence of evil.
Ooh.
Do it! Do it! You want your mask? Come and get it!
I'm coming for you, Michael.
Golly. I guess I forgot that red band trailers are a thing, so I was not expecting to see like. Yeah. Well, that was delightful, wasn't it? So, Halloween Kills is the direct sequel to 2018's Halloween, and it is also the 12th installment in the Halloween franchise. And naturally, I have a little backstory to offer on this franchise because at this point, it's somewhat of a rabbit hole. So as some of you may know, the first Halloween film made its debut in 1978. It was directed and scored by John Carpenter and starred Donald Pleasence and Jamie Lee Curtis in her film debut. Story-wise, the film is centered around a mental patient named Michael Myers, who was committed to a sanitarium for murdering his teenage sister on Halloween night when he's 6 years old. 15 years later, he escapes and returns to his hometown, where he undergoes a murdering spree while under pursuit by a psychiatrist. And as a young babysitter named Laurie Strode unexpectedly finds herself drawn into the reign of terror and must fight to ensure her own survival. So when Halloween was released, it made $70 million on a $300,000 budget, which makes it one of the most profitable independent films ever made. And taking its own inspiration from Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho and Bob Clark's Black Christmas, Halloween also became widely acclaimed for its influence within the horror genre by helping popularize and develop the subgenres of slasher films. So, definitely a film that has cemented its place in film history. And what I find even more astonishing about that is that in the same way that Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho inspired Halloween, and Psycho made its own waves, especially with Janet Leigh as its star, Halloween ended up making the same impact with Jamie Lee Curtis as its star, who just so happens to be the daughter of Janet Leigh. I always talk about like full circle moments when it comes to certain films and the legacy of film and certain actors and actresses and how things really just kind of come back around and cement themselves. So in regards to Psycho and Halloween, I think it's pretty incredible. Well, we didn't stop there. From that first film, the Halloween franchise spawned 8 additional sequels. But just how these sequels tie into each other is where things get just a little bit muddy. 1981's Halloween 2 is a direct sequel to the first film and introduced a very significant plot twist with Michael Myers and Laurie Strode. Now, as far as 1982's Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, it's somewhat of an anomaly in the franchise. Not only does it depart from the slasher genre with an entirely new story that combines science fiction and horror elements, it is the only film in the history of the franchise to not feature its main antagonist, Michael Myers. Season of the Witch was meant to kick off a potential anthology series of films centered around Halloween night. However, due to poor reception, the idea was canned, and Michael Myers was reintroduced in 1988's Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers. This film, along with 1989's Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers, and 1995's Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers, are all centered around Jamie Lloyd, the daughter of Laurie Strode. Then in 1998, we saw the return of Jamie Lee Curtis in Halloween H2O 20 years later, which is the direct sequel to the first 2 films, completely ignoring the story arc of the previous 3. We also had 2002's Halloween Resurrection starring Busta Rhymes and Tyra Banks. And the less said about that one, the better. Then came Rob Zombie's reimagining of Halloween in 2007, in addition to Halloween 2 in 2009. I did think this new vision of Michael Myers in the first film was pretty intriguing, but it completely fell apart in the second. So fast forward 9 years later, and we get yet another retcon of Halloween. This version of the story ignores all previous sequels, including Halloween 2, and it is a direct sequel to the original 1978 film. So I would say for the most part, in regards to 2018's Halloween, I did enjoy the take on the story, but it also was kind of a mixed bag because I knew that this film was either going to be an end to the story or a continuation. And I knew that as soon as we got into a continuation, well, what's to stop us from once again going down this road of Michael Myers being unstoppable and it just continuing on and on. So I was kind of like, I'm not sure how to feel about the end of the film. So I think there were some fun ideas. I was entertained overall, but it also made me think like, what else can we do with this franchise? Like, how can we continue to keep this going? Because if you've been listening, then you can see that this franchise has been chopped and screwed and retconned and spun off and rebooted and flipped around every which way from Sunday. Like, there's been a lot that has happened in this franchise. And at this point, it's kind of like, what else is there? So with that being said, I am still very much interested in going to see this because I'm interested in seeing many aspects of this film and how the story is going to play out, especially with the town all banding together. I'm just kind of thinking like nobody thought about doing this like years ago, but I digress. I'm really interested in seeing like how that piece of the story is going to work. Then I'm also curious about the ending because there's already a sequel to this film called Halloween Ends that is going to be released in 2022. So, although I could be wrong, that clearly suggests something about how this film is going to end. So, once again, even though I'm intrigued, it leaves me feeling somewhat ambivalent about the whole thing. It's so interesting that David Gordon Green is in the director's seat for these films. I did think his direction of the first film was pretty on target, but it's also really funny because he's directed 2008's Pineapple Express and 2011's Your Highness, which are both basically stoner films. So it's kind of hilarious seeing him go from that genre and then jumping all the way over to dark, serious, bloody horror. But I actually do appreciate him switching things up. You know, I don't want anyone to get typecast. And I am really excited to see him take the lead on this as well as the third film. And I'm just really intrigued and ready to see what ideas he has in store to close out this trilogy. As far as Jamie Lee Curtis, there is not a lot that I can say about her because she is very much an icon. She has a very extensive filmography. She's been in all kinds of films, not just films that were critically acclaimed, but also ones that were box office hits as well. Trading Places, A Fish Called Wanda, True Lies, Freaky Friday. Oh, and we can't forget, just as recently as 2019, she starred in Knives Out, and I thought she was so hilarious in that. So for her to have starred in that film in 1978 and to still be very much known and especially at the forefront of this franchise 43 years later, that's quite remarkable. And I also like that we are getting the chance to revisit characters that appeared in the original film, and a few of them are portrayed by the original actors as well. First, we have Kyle Richards as Lindsay Wallace, who was one of the children that Laurie babysat while Michael was wreaking havoc in the first film. Now, for some very obvious reasons, some of you may be more familiar with her because of her presence on Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, as opposed to this role, but that is another conversation for another time. We're also seeing the return of Nancy Stevens as Marion Chambers, who is the retired former assistant to Dr. Sam Loomis, who appeared in the original film in Halloween 2 and Halloween H2O 20 years later. Lastly, we have Charles Cyphers reprising his role of Sheriff Lee Brackett, who appeared in the original film as well as the original sequel, Halloween 2. So yeah, it's really interesting seeing how this franchise is still very much a part of pop culture, a big part of film history. It is still very much current. And I think that Halloween is just a popular franchise for a reason. Michael Myers is just a very compelling antagonist. He refuses to die, so that's always fun. But yeah, I just think Halloween is just one of those franchises and the films in the franchise where you just can't stop watching, even though you question, like, why are we still doing this all these years later? But if nothing else, although I do not know what to expect, I am still really excited to see what this franchise has left to offer. Halloween Kills will be released in theaters October 15th. Of course, you know I'll be there watching, and as always, I'll be here to give you guys my thoughts. So, once again, this is D, Movieman, signing off, and I'll see you at the movies.